my most important job was to pay attention to the swing of the door and take notes from people who were experiencing and see them as the real experts in their lives.
Welcome back to the Change Reaction Podcast. I'm Matt West, and it's an honor to feature one of the co-CEOs of one of Los Angeles' leading service organizations, Homeboy Industries. Shirley Torres began her journey there as a case manager and now leads this remarkable organization, which has been transforming the lives of young men and women impacted by gang involvement or incarceration, helping them rebuild their futures within their communities. In this episode, it's basically a masterclass in compassion, and it starts with the philosophy that is the core of the Homeboy Way, radical kinship. Let's get into it. Shirley Torres, welcome to the Change Reaction Podcast. I say that as humbly as I can, knowing that you, as the co-CEO of really one of the preeminent service-minded organizations in Los Angeles, for you to be here and take time out of your busy schedule and everything that you have going on at Homeboy, it's a real honor for us to have you. So thank you for being here.
It's mutual. I'm really grateful for the invitation to pause and have an important conversation and reflectively look at what's possible.
Can we talk about the sort of the most recent news? I want to understand what's happening with this recent announcement of this $100 million fundraising effort to expand the Homeboy campus.
Yeah, we have a vision that we continue to march toward, which is investing in the healing and wholeness of people. And we believe that can't happen without really investing in basic needs. And in Los Angeles, we're facing a housing crisis that even as we've come in to address healing and address employment, if people don't know where they're going to sleep or how they're going to eat, then we really don't have a chance at helping people come out on the other end and honor the hunger to change their lives. And that's what we're committed to. So really, I'm a co-CEO, so Steve is my partner in this work, and together we've agreed to double down on our commitment to provide people with dignity and support to change their lives, because we believe that when we invest in them, then they are part of the solution, which is building healthy communities. And there's a ripple effect. So, people say it takes a village, and we announced that we're building one in partnership with many folks like Change Reaction and others that really believe that another way is possible in the world.
It's interesting because it seems simple to think that you need to take care of someone's basic needs before they can do anything else. They're carrying weight on their shoulders all day, but if they don't have a place to sleep or food on the table, how can they even think about doing anything bigger than that, like paying rent and, putting their kids through school, et cetera? So I'm just curious, has that always kind of been the ethos of Homeboy? It's like you kind of come through our doors and how can we help in that basic need way?
Definitely. I think Homeboy's values are radical kinship. So it's about that none of us are well until all of us are well. So it's an invitation to understand that we're connected. We don't believe in survival of the fittest, but in the thriving of the whole. And for us, it's important to continue to develop ways where we are creating choices and chances to honor someone's hunger to change their lives. And we can't do that if people don't have basic needs. And so it is about choices and chances. And we believe gang membership was never a choice. I believe that that when you consider the ages at which young people join gangs, in my experience in this work for over 2 decades, that's between the ages of 9 and 12, that's not a real choice. When I hear that someone at 9, 10, that's like, 5th grade, 6th grade, that they joined a gang, again, I think about what are they running from, and I think about the lethal absence of hope, um, and how the lights are dim in homes, and how every person I've met has had to carry more than the average person, and the kids don't get to be kids, and yet we don't really think about gang members as children. So I think for us, or for me personally, I've always believed in how do we create, how do we even the playing field? How do we make sure that people's potential is not dependent on the zip code they were born into or the family system they were born into, but that because there is a creative genius in all of us, that we all thrive when we actually honor that everyone has gifts and talents to contribute to our society.
It's beautiful.
It's an amazing philosophy. Your journey with Homeboy has been long.
Yeah.
2 decades
Yeah.
with Homeboy. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey from starting with Homeboy to now being the co-CEO?
Yeah, I think it's been a calling for me. I don't think I ever went to Homeboy and said, yes, this is my calling. But over time, I understood that my healing was connected to Homeboy. I came in there, at 23 years old, recently graduated from UCLA and wanted to change the world. And I thought this will be my first stop, but I was really passionate about higher education and really about what I would say is like creating opportunities for people to not just have entry-level jobs, but how do we disrupt the status quo? Because I'm a first-generation Latina, and having access to higher education, I'm one of 5 in my own family, and one of very few in my community. And so for me, that was part of what I thought was my journey, that I would go and figure out ways into higher ed. When I came to Homeboy, I realized that poverty was relative. And I had to sort of surrender everything I thought I knew. Because I had my personal experience. I had grown up in a neighborhood where there was lots of violence and drugs, and yet I had a home with 2 parents and I could depend on every meal. When I came to Homeboy, I realized there was a lot more to learn here, and that my most important job was to pay attention to the swing of the door and take notes from people who were experiencing and see them as the real experts in their lives. And I felt like that was the best way that I can help. And so I say over 23 years, I've been shaped by the people I serve. I've had every job there. I was started as a case manager in juvenile detention, working specifically with young girls and doing healing circle, and then really being taking in everything I needed to from the staff that was there from the beginning. Learning how to integrate culture and rituals that were part of our practices that we have forgotten with formal theories and things I learned. And so I became the director of education, and little by little together as a team, just trying to do better and trying to make order out of chaos and trying to provide relief. And really, I would say I would describe my first 5 years in the trenches, learning and having lots of lessons I learned from people. And then the next 10 years really being architects of moving and evolving to not just a jobs training program, but a therapeutic community. So what's underneath the pain? How do we provide the kind of relief? What is it that people need? And what I realized early on is that what you need to be helpful to others is you need permission to walk with others. And when you have permission to walk with others, you get to enter into a journey where people trust you with things they've never trusted other people with.
Can you peel back the layers of what that means to have that permission?
Again, I think it's one of the most important jobs, that people trust us with their whole selves, not just with pieces of it. I think in traditional, I would say, systems of care and even systems of supervision, like jail and other stuff, folks are a number or a last name. And I think Homeboy's philosophy from the beginning was about seeing people and cherishing them, and not saying, look a certain way so I can accept you. but minimizing the hoops and just saying like I got you. Like, we got you. We, like, if you trust us and you give us permission, we got you. And we're not going to abandon you. And we want to see you win. And that's our only agenda. And that's really pure. And it's also rare for our community.
I have a lot of questions and a lot of thoughts. I'm so inspired by all the things you're saying. And I'm just curious because you said you came out of college and you said, oh, I want to change the world. And it's really common, especially more so for people who have lived experience. They say, I want to get back into nonprofits so I can help my community. And you're one of one for someone that I've met who've really been in so many, if not all, roles throughout the organization. So I'm just curious, has there been one role that you've been in that you really have seen the needle move in that I want to change the world mentality?
I think, I don't think there's one role, but I think throughout my titles, there's one thing I've never stopped doing and that I try to, that I think is part of the culture, Homeboy, and that is to pay attention to the swing of the door and to study and see why people come. Like, why do gang members come to Homeboy and why do they return? And it's because they find help. And they experience feeling seen and cherished and feeling safe for the first time ever in their lives, as we said. And the fact that that's rare, I mean, I think about what do we do best is we receive people and we roll out the red carpet. And it's a place where those that are last come first at Homeboy. And in that way, we're the opposite of the world. And I think throughout, to me, that's not about a role. That's about making sure you keep your eyes as you grow on what matters most, which is the people. And even in my role now as a co-CEO, people ask me, well, what does it feel like to be in this role? And for me, it feels like it means that we get to honor that Homeboy is owned and operated by the people we serve. They're the boss. They're my bosses, and they trust us to say, like, we got you. And if they are in any way straying away from the path or the journey, that they trust us enough to hold up the mirror and invite them back on the path.
That's so beautiful. Like, and really kind of truly paradigm shifting, right? In terms of the way that you think about the people that you serve as really being the ones that are leading the way in how you serve. But for people who don't really know, what's the one thing that you want people to take away or have an understanding about Homeboy that they may not have?
It's important to understand the story of Homeboy. Like, the Homeboy really, again, began specifically as designed to operate hope at the crossroads of life and death. It's to invite people to a whole new life as they're chasing death. And again, like, gang members in Los Angeles, which is the gang capital of the world, will never say I'm suicidal. But they've not also been invited to community and to be part of. And we all want belonging. For me, I want people to know that healing's never been afforded to the poor. And that we've had policies specifically designed in our country and in our state that have punished the poor, that have criminalized the poor, that young people who are acting their age in adolescence and are pushing boundaries in some zip codes will get the resources they need to have a way to explore identity, but that poor people in poor communities will get locked up for them. And we have to change that. And again, being in the trenches, I learned a lot about systems of care and supervision that have this idea that we got to protect the good kids from the bad kids. Mm-hmm. And what Homeboy is about is that there's no such thing as a bad kid. And that the dream we have for our own children should be the dream we have for all our kids. What I want people to know is that our philosophy, people talk philosophically about alternatives to incarceration, and we're doing it. Hope doesn't just live in the clouds. Action creates hope. and we need to continue to move into action. We need to figure out what's the next loving step. And for us at Homeboy, you asked me, Brooke, what really do you think has changed things and what has allowed us to help more people in deeper ways? And I think it's really designing a way in which people can earn a living, but not choose healing over scaling. That part of our 18-month program, we help about 10,000 people every year. We have 16 social enterprises, and people get to choose the dose they need in their lives. What do I need? Some people may come in and they may need a class. They may need to get connected to sobriety. We have sort of a menu of services through 3 one-stop campuses. But we also have 16 social enterprises where people get to work for the first time and earn a good living. But we try not to put people in this position where they have to choose, do I heal and transform my pain or do I work? It's all healing centric. Right. And you get paid for it. Yeah. And people will look at us as like, why would you pay someone to work on themselves? Yeah. Because that's the hardest job. Think about it. People run away from looking at themselves in the mirror, and that's human nature. But here we have folks on the margins who've never been afforded the opportunity to explore this question of who am I really, because they've been in survival mode.
With so many different, social enterprises and programs at Homeboy, is there a clear, singular stated path for everybody that comes through the doors to sort of get them into a path of healing, or does the journey depend really on the need of the individual?
I think for us, again, it's about giving people, honoring the right to self-determination. Mm-hmm. And I learned that when I got to Homeboy. When I say I had to abandon everything I thought I knew, I thought I'm going to change the world. I'm going to save people. And I realized there's no saving people. That if people are given the tools and the opportunities, they can save their own lives. We're here to serve. And as folks who are committed to serve, you then develop what you're hearing people say that they need. And this is why creating choices that people get to choose their dose. There is one path that we've developed, which is an 18-month program that is really about dosing people. And really when I think about our 18-month program, I would say that's kind of like ICU in a hospital. It's like the biggest dose. So people are surrounded and they get a wraparound team that then helps them move out of survival and get their basic needs, get stable, and then move into our social enterprises where they are learning to work with others. You start to learn this notion that there are perceived notions of enemy, that there's no such thing when you work with people that you may have considered on the street, someone you used to maybe shoot at. All that gets transformed in community. And then you move into where you ask people, what is it that they want for their lives? And we move into a later phase where people get to experience internships and figure out, what's possible for me, and they get to choose a path. So in this way, our 18-month model, again, begins with healing, wholeness, stability, basic needs. And then through work structure, that's therapeutic. They get to still see their therapist. They still get to get the doses that they need so that they don't have to compromise really also all the things that are required when someone is released from prison to stay out, which includes visits and lots of mandates.
Yeah. You said something earlier about just kind of people, a lot of people coming through experiencing life or death. They're kind of in this life or death, maybe survival situation. So I'm just curious, how do you get people to come through your doors and feel like they can trust? Because I think trust is probably the biggest thing here, is that they're in a room full of strangers. They walk through this door. You talk about this beautiful 18-month healing, which is a lot of work, and you need to really be ready to go through that. So I'm just curious how you're kind of creating that culture within Homeboy to allow people to really walk through the door and feel like they're ready to kind of, I guess, take that step or that next chapter.
I think our secret sauce is the people, our homegrown leaders who have found purpose there, who have transformed their lives, and who now hold the door open for the next person. And that's the ripple. When we think about the philosophy of Homeboys, you stand at the margins, you offer healing, and you invest in people's wholeness through employment, but then you find purpose, you know. And our homegrown leaders are what I call hope in the flesh. You know, they're palpable. They're people you used to see that may have been leaders outside in the community in negative ways are now inviting you to a whole new life. And I think about the courage that is required to do the hard work of not running from yourself after experiencing, you know, really lots of trauma growing up, unimaginable things. But our homegrown leaders are guardians of the culture, but they're also hope in the flesh. It's like, I see myself in you.
Right.
And in that way, Homeboy doesn't need outreach or to recruit. We probably have more people walking through our doors than we can bring into our 18-month program. But our team, because they have lived in that life, they know what it's like to be on the other side. They make sure that no single person leaves any of our campuses without hope, without concrete help, without connection. And that's why people come back.
It's incredible to listen to you speak the way that you do, because what's at the core of all of this is clearly a deep care and reverence for humanity. You know, you said, what is the next loving step when you were describing, you know, someone's journey into this? It really comes from a place of having deep compassion and really seeing people as human. What happens when people first come through the door, if they're coming out of incarceration, for example, which is an incredibly dehumanizing experience? Can you tell me a little bit about the undoing of that to try and bring people back to their humanity? Because what I'm getting at is there's such an emphasis on healing that before you can heal, you've got to acknowledge that you're hurt. And so much of the prison experience or even the gang experience is about not showing pain, not being seen in that way, and losing touch with your humanity. So can you share a little bit about what that's like, just to bring people back to a place of humanity before you even get to healing?
Yeah, I think it happens. And Brooke, you mentioned this. It is about culture and community. There's a culture of folks who are living and breathing examples that change is possible. And when you see someone that you may have considered an enemy with, that has been incarcerated, that you maybe have met on the inside,
okay,
offer you a glass of water, offer you a meal when you get there, when you first walk through those doors, that they say, and they receive you and they ask you for your name and they give you a seat. And there's a kind of hospitality that, again, I would say starts to immediately bring down the armor. We chip away at the armor. People walk in with the mask and the armor, and it's impossible to sort of get to the heart of it. But I think it's these small, simple acts of kindness, of I see you, and understanding that not everyone has had a chance to rest or even sleep. That we're checking the pulse before we're checking the box. Folks go to places where it's the box that gets checked. Are you eligible for X, Y, and Z? And then we'll help you. And here it is about offering someone a glass of water first and foremost.
I love that.
There's an interesting thing that's happening. I'd love to get your take on this. We're seeing so much othering happening right now, and we're seeing a lot of really harmful, hurtful behavior when it comes to how our government is treating people of color, especially in Los Angeles, right? Their immigration situation is questionable, and there's a way to solve an immigration problem that doesn't require violence. It doesn't require physical violence. It doesn't require emotional violence. There is another way. I'm curious if you're seeing the impact of that kind of emotional and physical violence impacting the experience of people who are in the community and coming in and working, within and without the Homeboy universe at the moment.
Absolutely. But again, this is history repeating itself. And we want to other violence, and we want to say, historically, our country has identified scapegoats.
Always.
And gang members have been ideal. And I always say, violence and gang membership is American made. And there is a kind of swing of the pendulum that we're definitely seeing that targets our community in a different way, and forces people to operate in fear. And our ethos and our values at Homeboy is to get grounded always in generous love and compassion, but also to resist the urge to hate others. And that takes intentionality and community and prayer and culture, and it's spiritual. Change is spiritual. Yeah. But we invite each other, and we have anchors for each other. And for us, again, I think Homeboy is born out of this place of the idea that there is no other, and that there is no such thing as enemy, and that watch what happens. And to all of us when we commit to standing with each other and marching toward the vision where no one is left behind. And we continue to stay grounded in that. There's definitely, again, this tendency to be in panic, especially as we see basic needs threatened, SNAP benefits, food. And we roll up our sleeves with good partners and strategic allies to understand that there's more of us locked into this idea that that people deserve to be treated as human beings. And even though we feel bombarded by the opposite, that when we lock arms, we actually have the power and resources to help each other get through this moment.
That's what I was just going to ask you, right? Because there's so much happening right now that just feels so overwhelming, right? You just mentioned, the feeling of being bombarded by all of it. Is that overwhelming for you and for the folks at Homeboy, or is it galvanizing?
That's an interesting way to put it. I think it's both and. It's both and. I mean, again, we're so blessed to have such amazing team members. I mean, trainees, staff, executive leaders who are reminding us that we want to do everything for everyone, and we can't do everything for everyone.
We talk about that a lot here.
And we're going to do our best. But I do think that we want to always, again, going back to the invitation, we're constantly invited. We're being invited right now to operate in fear, to hate others, to be hopeless. And we want to resist that urge. We want to be the opposite. We want to invite people to radical kinship, to compassion, to love, to generosity, that there is so much that each of us can do individually to embody a different kind of spirit in our practice, in our everyday practice. And that there's nothing that together we can't overcome. So I say that to say that in this time, again, we're not just one of my anchors at Homeboy, Jose Arellano, always reminds me, and he sends me every morning meditations and readings, and he always says faith without works is dead. And so we just can't pray our way into things either. We're just not hoping, again, hope in the clouds. It's every day we're working hard, and we're going to roll up our sleeves, and we're going to double down on our commitment to offer dignity and respect to folks who are being targeted. And that's an opportunity we have found to gather in community and say, oh, we see each other and we got each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I feel galvanized.
Yeah.
Like I'm motivated. Like that's a beautiful way to look at it. And we talk about it a lot. Like the idea that love is an act of resistance. Truly.
Absolutely. And commitment to honor transformation of your life. Transforming pain requires the courage to be vulnerable. And that's resistance. That actually we're not going to revert to old ways of being, that we're going to honor our dreams, that we are going to honor the next generation by breaking cycles of incarceration and poverty and trauma. And that we're going to do that. And that's resistance. And so we always have to, though, be conscious of power and privilege and understand that not everyone can enter into the conversation the same way. And so during this time, because we work with we stand at the margins with people, our folks have records and are on parole and probation, we know the implications for them to resist right now or voice there is different. Implications for them are different. So we try to be careful about that. In this time, we've had healing circles to just make space for what are people feeling and carrying.
Yeah.
And how do they move into action because they want to do something. And so during this time, we've pivoted and given birth to something called Hope Alley, where we've transformed one of our blocks into a way in which we're inviting community. And the men and women, the trainees in our program are vending for street vendors who are too scared to be out today, but need to pay rent and pay food for their kids. And so we've been doing that once a month since July, where we have galvanized and gathered in community in this moment. We had in July 17th was our first one. And we had about 1,000 people who came through from 10 to 2. And we were able to buy out all the vendors. And again, the trainees in our program were feeling purposeful activity.
It's beautiful.
So I always think 3 things are what's important to continue to do this work. And it's people, place, and purpose. With those 3 things, you can change the world.
I mean,
I love it.
That alone right there, like Hope Alley, just the number of things that I think are really innovative that come out of Homeboy. You know, as a co-CEO, as a CEO in general, right? Like you are a vision holder.
I mean, my personal vision, I believe that everyone has a song to sing. And that, they say that music is made in the space between the notes. And I believe that everyone's got to sing their song. And I carry with me the songs of people I've met who didn't make it. And I carry all the parts of them that they trusted me with. And I think for me, I came into this, as I shared with you, when I was 23, I was a kid. I never thought I didn't want to be a mom. I didn't want to get married. I had this idea of success that was more aligned with what the world was telling me. It wasn't my personal, my vision. But now I come into the work as a mom. I'm a mother of 2 kids, and again, the dream I have for my children is a dream that I have for every single person and child that comes to the door that didn't get a chance. So my personal vision is that everyone gets to sing their song, and again, that choices are created equal, that someone's potential and to live their dream is not disrupted by the zip codes or the circumstances they were born into, and that we honor everyone's creative genius. But people have to have a village that they are part of. And the Center for Father Greg's, the Center for Kinship is about continuing to invest deeper into communities and to addressing housing. We will have about 148 beds of transitional and then another phase of housing. And together with our partners and other strategic allies who are our neighbors and building also housing and markets, we have a vision for what whole person care looks like, what alternatives to incarceration looks like. But it is this idea of a village, 1 block at a time, we're doing it.
one block, one person at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just so inspired. I feel like there's so much that you said that, I'm always thinking, I'm grateful that I've been in this work now for 5 years, and I've met a lot of organizations and people who work at these, anti-recidivism focused, formerly incarcerated, individuals. But for people that I know who know nothing about it, it can seem intimidating, and it's like I don't understand the connections here. And I think you've touched on so much today that is, one, really inspiring, and two, just the lessons and just the ethos and the words that you're carrying. I think people, no matter really where they are in life, involved, not involved, kind heart, interested, whatever they might be, can really carry a lot of what you've shared with us and do good in some way. I mean, all of the pieces here, I'm just, feeling so, what's the word you said?
Galvanized?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the
I mean,
word.
I could not agree more. I'm super galvanized by the things that you've said, and I really feel like this conversation was a masterclass in deep compassion and humanity. And I am so grateful that you were able to come in and make the time for us. And we are such huge fans of the work that you and everybody at Homeboy does, and we are so in your corner. We've got you. We are behind you 100% of the way. Congratulations on the fundraising initiative. Congratulations on the launch of the podcast as well.
The Homeboy Way.
Yeah, so good.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
And Shirley, thank you for coming in. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate
And
you.
again, thank you. You're not just fans, you're champions of, radical kinship and compassion and all the values. And you've also been able to hold up the mirror for us. When you're in the work and in the trenches, and our staff's just so amazing, but to be our partners in this work and to provide relief for, again, our staff, our homegrown leaders, it's just really been a game changer, because it's been able to really help us build a movement. So we want to make sure that healing transcends the buildings we're in, and that it lives in people. And at Homeboy, we always say everybody holds a piece. So thank you for doing your piece and helping us.
I want to thank Shirley Torres from Homeboy Industries for joining us today. They have a new podcast that you can check out called The Homeboy Way, and there's a link to that in our show notes below. And hey, as long as you're clicking on links, if you could give this episode a like or share it with a friend, it would really help our show. My thanks to Brooke Perlman for sitting in on today's incredible conversation, which was produced by Roman D'Angelo and edited by Dan Cohen. I'm Matt West. Thanks for watching.